Hey, how's everybody doing once again? So, for today's video, I wanted to talk about a few of the ways that compared to my age group and back when I was younger, during my teenage years, compared to now, when kids that are teenagers, they have it much more convenient. As a matter of fact, a whole lot more convenient. And here's one example of how, okay, there have been times when some of my nieces, and let me make it clear, my nieces' kids, which are my great nieces, grand nieces, whichever way you would like to put it, one being around 14, who just recently turned 14 years of age, the other one who will be turning 15 at the end of this month. And it will be times when they will need homework help. And I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with the internet. And the internet over the past 20 plus years has changed. Drastically. Compared to when it first popped off back during the late 90s, 1997, 1998-ish. By the way, I was just a teenager then, a good 15, 16 years old at the time. And I could kind of remember it vividly how in order to get access to the internet, you had to have, first and foremost, a landline. For some of you who may not know or be familiar with the term landline, it's a house phone. Also, you will have to have, second of all, a modem, a cable modem, along with a router. So to sum it all up, your phone's cable line had to be connected to your desktop computer's line, and in order to get access to the internet, okay, unlike now how you could just put in one specific word to access the internet. For instance, I give you a perfect example. Okay, instead of typing, because most websites may start with www. For instance, one website may be www.godaddy.com. That's a perfect example. All you need to do nowadays, when how advanced and how sophisticated the internet has gotten since my more younger days, you would have to have typed the whole entire website address, www.godaddy.com. Now you could just put in GoDaddy, and from then on, click on the search button, and from then on, you would get possibly over 1 billion related searches pertaining to that particular term, GoDaddy itself. Okay, not only do you have to, back then when the internet first popped off, put in the whole entire website's address, but you had to wait. Well, let me rephrase that. You had to make sure your phone was all the way on the hook so you could receive a ringtone, and that's it for people who are more familiar with landlines, aka house phones. Specifically, the older generation, the baby boomers. Anyway, for some of you who may be wondering what I mean by baby boomers, just look it up when you get a chance, and that is explain it all, because they are very, very familiar with a landline. My parents is a prime example, who are both still to this day use a landline, aka house phone, by them being over 70 years old. And in most cases, people around that age bracket are not as technologically savvy as, let's say, the average 13-year-old nowadays. Anyway, if you were hard work back during the late 90s, early 2000s era, was once you were able to get a line, a business signal, where a ring or how could I put it? Anyway, I just put it this way. Anytime you had made sure your phone was always on the hook, in most cases a cordless phone, because people were using house phones that didn't need the cord anymore. They may have had long antennas, but at the time the antennas were going from extremely long to more shorter around that time frame. Anyway, once you had your phone on the hook and had the ability to call someone, you were able to first try to log into or type your search in the search engine, to get connected to the internet, and then from then on you will hear your modem or router dialing up just to verify whether you could be able to get internet connection. Now, it was a catch to that, because if you were to get connected to the internet and be able to go to any website that you wanted to at the time, pick up your phone while on the internet, chances are your internet connection would have been completely terminated. And for some of you who may want more elaboration, or may want much more of a detailed description on how things were back then with internet connection, just for instance, do a Google search on how internet connection was back in the days compared to now. As an example, you could type that for all you younger people who may not be familiar at all with what I'm referring to. Anyway, my nieces that I have mentioned a few minutes or mentioned earlier, would have homework. There would be times where they would have homework, and my sister would come calling me saying that she would need me to help them with whatever they were struggling with in homework. Now, with the internet, and by this being the information age, you're practically able to find information on any topic that you may need help with, including homework topic. In fact, there are actually websites that will actually do assignments for you, even projects for you, even though you may have to up a few hundreds of dollars or pay a few hundreds of dollars in order to get those assignments done on specific websites. And my point in saying is kids nowadays, compared to when I was a kid back during the 90s, because I'm 40 years old, in case some of you may be wondering how old I am. Back when I was their age, my niece's ages, we weren't familiar with social media at all. In fact, social media wasn't prevalent by a long shot. Now, you may have had the internet and websites you could go to, but things weren't as easily accessible to the point where you could just have a mobile phone, a smartphone was what they're called nowadays, compared to even back then, the cell phones weren't as sophisticated as they are now. Not even small enough to fit in your pockets. Now, there may have been flip phones back then, and then other types of cell phones that were way more clunkier, way more big enough to put inside of a suitcase, so to speak, with long stretchable antennas, retractable antennas you could either raise up or down. And in order to get much more better service, you would have to, in most cases, raise the antennas up all the way. Otherwise, you may get either a drop call or hear static in the background while talking to someone. That's just how one of the main examples of how technology has evolved over the past 20 plus or so years. Also, my main point is for some of you who may be wondering where am I going with this, is that kids nowadays just don't know how convenient and easy they have it. Therefore, it shouldn't be an excuse for all the kids that are still in school, whether it may be elementary, middle, or high school, and who may still need help with homework. Because another thing, when I was in elementary, middle, and high school, we had libraries, because libraries have been around for a very long time. But in order to be able to get help with homework while visiting the library, we would have to ask for a specific encyclopedia. And a lot of times those specific encyclopedias we would want to check out, and there will be even cases when we couldn't even much check out the encyclopedias for the most part. Instead, we would have to usually stay at the libraries during a certain time frames, by how libraries are only open for a certain amount of hours through certain days of the week. We either had that option for homework, or we either had to be extremely smart and be able to adapt to anything pertaining to academics, so to speak, or whatever we may have had for our homework assignments, even our classroom assignments. We had to be just smart, extremely smart in anything, to the point where we hardly ever needed help for homework or class work assignments, to put it another way. Also, the other option we had were just textbooks. Compared to now, kids, when the more and more younger kids are nowadays, the more they have access, is what I'm saying once again, to be able to get help for any kind of class project, any kind of homework project. But until this day, kids are just lazy, because my two nieces, like to, for the most time, just be on social media for the most part. They either like to be on social media because they do have smartphones, and I'm sure a lot of you are becoming more and more familiar how with the more younger kids are nowadays, the more you see kids with cell phones or smartphones. And they're not usually on social media, the two of them, then they're always on the phone talking to somebody on their cell phones. And it's just ridiculous how, when as spoiled as kids are, and with as much access that they have to be able to get literally any kind of help for class work assignments, homework assignments, a lot of them still don't like to put forth the effort to study. And that's just this video is just, for the most part, a perfect example of how kids nowadays, compared to people, the people of my generation, my age bracket, how we had it back then, and just don't know how blessed they are, and how easy and convenient they have it nowadays, especially with social media and the internet / information age. Until next time, feel free to comment, let me know how you feel about this particular topic, whether you agree with me or disagree. And also feel free to share this video so it could become more viral and get exposed more, become more mainstream, and the channel as well, so the channel could become much more mainstream as well and draw a much more bigger audience. And last but not least, subscribe to the channel, because I will be releasing more and more content in the near future as well. So until next time, by the way, also make sure you get a video a big thumbs up by smashing the like button as well. Till next time, have a blessed day.